Hello, everybody. Blair Nightingale here, jumping on to the Market Monday. It is that time. If you're joining us live today, I'm glad to have you. If you're going to watch this by the recording, as so many of our people do, just want to give you a shout out as well, let you know that I know you're there and I am thinking of you literally as we are doing these broadcasts. Everybody who gets to be a part of this is important to us here at TRADEway. We have been doing this Market Monday now for a little while, maybe 2 months, maybe just over 2 months now. And what we're doing every single Monday is bringing you premium content. This is premium content. That's not just a line at the beginning of the broadcast. I'm actually teaching you guys things on these broadcasts that is normally something we only talk about inside of our TRADEway programs. I am one of the coaches at TRADEway. Used to work and manage in the main office back in Texas. Now I am out on the West Coast with the rest of the world. We are working remote. And the beautiful thing, I've told you guys this before, is stock trading is exploding. Brokerage firms, those who help you and I execute trades, buy and sell stocks from the markets, from the stock exchanges, they are reporting record numbers of traders in 2020. It's not hard to see why. People are looking for alternative ways to make money. People are at home. People have been furloughed, laid off. Businesses have closed. All kinds of things have happened. Some people, it's not even that you have lost security in your employment, depending on what you do, but you're looking for more because you know things can change so quickly. And even before all of this happened, this is something that we have always said is one of the greatest financial opportunities that exists in our country today. What's the issue? The issue is, like oil in the ground, it requires time and resources to get to it. And what I want to do for you today and every day that we are together on a Market Monday is help give you the resources. I want to give you more return on your time investment into these sessions than you put into them. So we've got something special today. We've been going through a course on trader basics. And the basics for me is the foundation. It's the foundation. It's not simply simple stuff that's kind of fluffy and I give it to you and then we're going to forget it later on the trading journey. No. This is the foundation that everybody who wants to stock trade needs to learn. And we have been going through those sorts of things this entire series. Today, we are going to look at how do we, TRADEway coaches, how do we approach looking for trades? We've gone over a lot of other things in the series already. Today, I want to practically close us out by looking at how do I actually look for trades? I'm going to give you some of the core values that we have when we train students, the way we were trained, and then also go to my charting platform and show you how do we look for trades. Okay, I told you this is something we normally do inside of our content. I am a coach who primarily helps direct the content for a program we have here at TRADEway called Insiders Plus. And some of what I'm going to do today is actually what we did in a webinar on Thursday. So you're getting some good insight as to what we do here. That said, I want to take a moment and just jump on over. I can see names lighting up on the board. You guys are commenting, as I love to see. I always invite you guys to do that. Today, I didn't even have to. You're just all over it. Valerie, Gladys, Bob, Len, Endel, Carlota or Carlota. I don't know which way that is. You have a very unique name, though. I like it. Everybody on here, thank you for being here so much. We're from all over the country as usual. What I want to give you today, you're going to walk away from this with this. I have a better idea of what's important when I'm looking for a trade. Okay? I've said many times, and you guys have heard me say this. Joe, I see you there. Amateurs think about profits. Professionals manage risk. Do professionals never think about profits? Of course not. Of course they think about profits. That's the whole point. We're in this to be profitable, but the way that we get there is different than how people who are amateurs or new, just new, right, is how they think. It's different. It's different. So what we focus on is important, and there's a process for doing this that is important, okay? So we talk a little bit about getting set up. How do I actually have a, if you will, stock trading business, which is, by the way, that is what TRADEway aims to do, is to train you and yours to have your own stock trading business, a home-based business. So what is the process? What is the process that is important? Mike, I see you there. And Kyle, welcome to both of you. Thank you for being on today. If you have any questions as we're going through here, please feel free. Pop that in the comments. I say it all the time if you're a regular here. I would rather hear from you than spend the entire time having you hear from me. I do think I have some things that I want to make sure, some seeds I want to sow, but I want to hear from you guys as always so that we know exactly where you're at. And I think just being able to answer questions specifically helps me help you in a whole nother way. So I'll continue to check. Go ahead and post them in there. If I don't see it right away, I will jump on it. But I mentioned in terms of how TRADEway coaches make trades and find trades, it's really about a process. And what we will do with you at TRADEway is help you to understand the deeper levels of that process and control yourself as you navigate the process. Well, Blair, what do you mean by that? I mean, I'm going to tell you some steps that are helpful in finding and executing trades. The steps, knowing them and knowing how to correctly apply them is very important. But what's even more important, those of you out there who are traders and you've been in the program, you can attest to this. If you feel like this is true for you, go ahead and pop it in the comments. As you are going through those steps, you find that one of the things you need to manage isn't just what steps to do, it's you. It's whether or not you can consistently execute those steps without breaking the rules, changing them, leaving some of them out, etc., as we know what to do. And we grow into the person who is mature enough, disciplined enough to consistently do it. That's when we really start becoming, I'm going to say today, dangerous in the best way as traders. So it's about a process. And this is fairly basic overview of what this is. I think this is going to be really helpful. Number one, I tell people inside the programs all the time, when you're looking for a trade, you're not just looking for price movement. Now, I'm making some assumptions here. You have a brokerage account, okay? And you have some way of charting stocks. Now, we've talked about that on this station. By the way, if you have not seen a specific episode of this series or any of our other Market Monday series, all you need to do is go back into the history on YouTube, right there on our Facebook page. You will be able to go back and watch other episodes of this show on those platforms. So if I reference anything from the past, just know you can go back and you can check those out. I am assuming that you have, again, brokerage account that you can buy and trade, or just even paper trade, virtual trade, fake money trading. And you have some way of looking at actual stocks, okay? Not just price quotes. I'm going to show you what I mean in a little bit here, but actually be able to look at the candlesticks, the price movement, drawing support and resistance, things that we have looked at on this channel already, as I mentioned. So some of you may need to go back and look at some of those earlier episodes. I say this all the time to our students. We are not just looking for price movement. If you saw the S&P today, you know what, guys? I'm actually just going to go ahead. I'm going to go ahead and pull it up and show it to you guys here. I have to open it in as I mentioned, if you guys have any questions, go ahead and pop it in there. If I touch on something that does not make sense, or you're saying, well, wait a second now, what is a brokerage account? I don't think I know what that means. Or I don't have charting software. In fact, that sounds really technical. I'm not even sure what you mean by that. Totally okay. Totally normal. Okay. I am actually going to show you right now. I just had to open another chart because it didn't want to let me share it with you. All right. You guys should be able to see this screen now. Here we are, very basic. Look at this market. 1, 2, 3, 4 days, okay? We're just looking at the last 4. We have gone from approximately, almost 4,000 or 3,400 up to 3,540, just about. Today was the high. This is a really big move, okay? This is a really big move. There's been some big moves all over the place. In fact, over the last couple of years, man, the stock market, I've traded for almost six years now, just about. I mean, this whole thing here, guys, amazing. This, amazing. Even this, you say, what do you mean even that? Go back to one of the early Market Monday series, and you'll find an episode where I actually talk about how I have the opportunity, and if you have the right skill sets, you can have the opportunity to potentially be profitable when this market is dropping. Or even if you don't know how to do that, how can I be safe or safer when the market is dropping? That's in a previous episode. So a lot of this has been really, really, really good. It's been very hot. Well, this move is screaming hot. Why do I show you this right now? Because I tell the students all the time, price movement, even if it's rapid, even if it's volatile, even if it's big, price movement is not enough for me to say, I would like to buy a stock. Lots of people who do not have skill sets will go out and say, well, that stock's moving. Let's just buy it. So I don't buy when I see prices moving alone. I have more to go on than simply seeing price action. So if you're a note taker, I would say you could write this down. I do not trade on simple price movement. I trade when I identify an edge in the market. I trade when I identify an edge in the market. Now, simply put, how do we, at TRADEway, how do we identify an edge? We identify an edge in part. There's more to it than this. We spend 2 full days teaching a course. It's our Step 1 introductory course. If you head on over to TRADEway.com, you'll find it right there on the main page, less than $100. We're going to train you for 2 full days on what I mean by edge. What I'm going to tell you today is we use our charting software and we find price patterns, reliable, predictable, repeatable patterns. For some of you, even the chart we were just looking at, you say, that's looking a little crazy to me. I don't know how to make sense to that. You may not know how to make sense to that yet, but that's what we can teach you how to do, because that chart that we just looked at, if I put 2 specific lines on that chart, and in my other account, I have those lines drawn on there. We're going to jump into those charts in a minute here. But if I put those 2 lines on there, it makes sense of the entire chart. Why? Because I've trained my mind. That chart we just looked at has a very distinct price pattern. What's a pattern? When something repeats itself the same way over and over. So I don't know the future. Anybody in stock trading who tells you they know the future, you want to seriously question whether or not you should continue listening to that person, because they're telling you they know something that they cannot possibly know unless the Holy Spirit shares something with them. But that's another conversation for another time. Usually, we just don't know, and that's not the work of a trader. The work of a trader is to find higher probability areas, environments, setups, we call them. Okay? We're diving right into this. I told you I wasn't going to give you fluff today. That's what we're looking for. So when we go to trade, when TRADEway coaches look for a trade, we don't just look for excitement. We don't just look for green candlesticks. We don't just look for a day when lots of stocks are going up, which was today. Today was one of those days. Big day up. And the last 4 days have been that. We look for a very specific thing. And that is actually more profound than it might sound. Because a lot of people invest and trade, and there's a difference, based on those things I just listed, and not on a specific setup, a specific pattern. And then, as I mentioned at the top of the broadcast, being disciplined enough to limit their activity to only that edge, and never trade when that edge is not present. That is where the discipline comes into play. And I noticed even a few people, as I mentioned earlier, if that's true of you, go ahead, drop it in the comments. A few people have mentioned that. It is actually something that traders go through a process of realizing, how difficult is this for me? Keeping my trading activity limited to only times when I find an edge. None of us are absolutely perfect at identifying every opportunity. But we wait until we do see it, and we only trade when we do. And I would even just throw in a freebie too. When we do see it, we don't pass on it just because we don't feel like doing it. That's a whole nother level. So I see that in here. Let's see. We've got Kyle Walker. I see your question there. I'm gonna just jump to that here in a second. Thank you for that. So we know what we're looking for. And again, that's more profound than it may sound, because many times people are very general and are not really sure what they're looking for. Even as a TRADEway student, I can remember having long watch lists of stocks, and I would cycle through them and almost get anxious, like, oh, I got to find a trade. I just got to find a trade. I'm looking for something to do in the market because I think I've got to place a trade. Because if I don't place a trade, I can't make money. But the truth is if I don't wait for the best setups, then I don't have the ability to get ahead. I'm just grasping at what's there. So knowing what we're looking for and only trading that is extremely important. That is the number one thing when we go to make trades. The number one thing, okay? I want to jump into Kyle's question here because I think it's a great question. Kyle says, what is your opinion on penny stocks? Now, we do talk about penny stocks in our Step 1 course, and I'll tell you briefly what we say. Now, for us, and our system really, by and large, has been developed by our founder, CEO, David Mitchell. His 30 years of trading experience, multi-generational trading experience, actually, as it was passed down through his family, investing and trading stocks. So in that system, we talk about penny stocks. Really, here's the thing you need to know. Penny stocks, there is potential in penny stocks. I'm not going to sit on here and say that there's no potential. But my desire for you, my concern for you, and really my responsibility as an advisor is to say, well, here's the risks. And the risks for us at TRADEway are too great for penny stocks. If we have a major company that is trading close to $1, dips below $1 and goes up, you say, well, what about that, Blair? Maybe that's an exception. Maybe that's a unique situation. My question would be, why is such a great company trading at such a low price? But I would just say this quickly. Low price, people are attracted. Traders can often be attracted to that. Why? Because they have leverage, right? If the stock price is low, whether I have a small account or a big account, I could get leverage on that. I can buy more shares. But remember that just because you have leverage doesn't mean you have an edge, doesn't mean you have a good trade. So a stock isn't necessarily what I want just because it's cheap. it's what I want because I see the edge that I have learned to look for, okay? The one that I know is in my personal trading plan. At TRADEway, we help our students develop their own personal trading plan because each trader is a little bit different. Everybody is a little bit different, so we help you develop that. Penny stocks, not better because they're cheaper. But again, we can get sucked in because of the leverage, number one. Number two, there's scams out there. There really are. There's scams. You can buy stocks. They may not be listed on a major exchange. I'm not going to quote the law here because I could be wrong about certain exchanges. But I know several companies that I've traded that ended up hitting really hard times, and they began to trade below $1. Okay, and what happens is they get notified, for example, by the NASDAQ. I can remember this happening to a company I would trade 2 years ago. Once it went below $1, they were notified, hey, unless you can bring your stock price above $1 in X amount of days, we're going to delist you from the major exchange. Now, if a major exchange delists, for those of you who don't know, major exchanges, just think of it almost like a grocery store, a major chain grocery store. What do you do when you need groceries? You go to the grocery store, the market, or supermarket. Everybody uses different terms. But what is it? It's a building that houses all the products so you can go and buy and sell those products, right? Well, that's basically what a stock exchange is. They take in products that they deem worthy to be on their shelves, if you will. And then you and I can go, we do it on our laptops, nice and easy, on our phones, nice and easy, and we're able to buy and sell those shares, much like we would do with groceries in a grocery store, right? It's a marketplace. Those marketplaces have specific rules for what is going to be sold in their stores, which is the same as any store we go to, Safeway, Vons, Kroger, Publix, wherever you live in the country, we've got different ones, right? But the exchanges don't just let anything on the shelf. Well, penny stocks, coming back around, they don't meet certain requirements. They're not on the shelves of the major exchanges. Now, does that mean that those are bad companies or they'll never be worth anything? Or you should, if somebody out there today owns a penny stock, you should just go out and sell it right now because it's probably dangerous? No, I'm not necessarily saying that. But you can still buy and sell these stocks, and they're not on the main exchanges. And that is something that gives room for some sketchy options. I'm going to change the language there. Sketchy choices for stocks. Again, scams, things that we don't know a lot about, just exposure to a lot of extreme volatility. And so there are dangers. There are dangers to penny stock. There is danger to being really highly leveraged as well. Meaning you go out and buy a lot of one penny stock because you think it's cheap, and then you wake up one morning and it's gapped down 50%. The company's lost half its value because it wasn't what we thought it was, or whatever the case might be. For that reason, we stay away from penny stocks. And we teach a system that allows our students to trade lower dollar stocks, not penny, but lower dollar, and also train our students how to use options in a safe way so that they can get the kind of leverage that options provide, but in a safer way while trading companies that are much more established and, if you will, safer growth companies. So for that reason, we have that standing on penny stocks, okay? Solid foundation basics of non-amateur trading. What a gift, Tom says. That's what we're going for here. All right. So that's really just number one. Okay. Number two, and this goes back to what I just said about being able to trade companies that are quality. I want quality stocks. For those of you who know, we also train options, like I just mentioned. And I exclusively, most of the time, not always, but exclusively actually just trade options now. You say, I don't know what an option is. It's okay. You don't even need to know what an option is right now if you don't know it all. Really, we're focusing on stock trading. But we do have lists that help us know if we're stock trading or otherwise, whichever way we're going. We have watch lists that narrow down the some almost 9,000 publicly traded companies, 9,000 publicly traded companies, into smaller lists. So instead of 8,700 stocks, I will have a list that has about 150 on them, okay? From that list of 150, as a coach, if I'm going to make a trade, I know the other coaches do this as well, they're going to go through that 150 maybe once a week, okay, depending on what their trading activity is. Once a week. Narrow that down. Maybe there's a lot of trades out there that week. Okay, so they go, well, they narrow it down to 10. Those 10 get put into a watch list. Mine is called a go list. Those 86, 8,700 become 150. The 150 becomes maybe 10. And then the 10 becomes 2 at most for me. See, I'm wearing them down. That can be done on a Sunday night, right? Or once a week, that can be done. Then you're ready for what's happening during the week, okay? You may only end up with 1 at the end, okay? Now, maybe there's less trades than that this week. You look and you didn't find 10, 8,700, 150, narrow it down to 10. Based on what? How am I narrowing these down? Based on whether or not I see on the chart, we looked at a chart earlier, just like that, based on whether or not I see on the chart what I'm looking for, right? We need to see what we're looking for. I'm not trying to go to the market. I'm trying to wait for the market to come to me. But I can't know if it has come to me if I don't know what I'm looking for. And I can manage myself well enough to not trade when I don't see what I'm looking for, which 9 times out of 10 creates losses that we didn't need to take because we traded when an edge wasn't present. Only the excitement of possibility was present. I don't want to trade on the excitement of what's possible. Excitement of what's possible is okay when it is directed through the focus of trading on an edge. And incidentally, when we discipline ourselves to do that, we have much greater mathematical probabilities of being profitable anyway, which is exactly what we were excited about. So this is definitely an emotional and mental game, and that is something that we really hammer on when we teach our students. And of course, that's a process that I've gone through and am still going through. I'll always be going through that, but I am not at the place I used to be. We have watch lists that tell us these are the companies I actually want. This is the pool I want to fish out of, if you will. And I narrow it down. I narrow it down. Once I narrow this down, okay, into a short go list, then I go, most of the time, the stock is not at that point, especially if it's a Sunday night, right? The market's not open. I'm giving you a practical breakdown of the process here. Once that's narrowed down, now what am I going to do? If it's Sunday night, Monday morning, the market will be open. Prices will be live. Buying and selling will be possible. Then what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to make a trading plan. We've talked about this on previous broadcasts. So generally speaking, I'm going to know 3 prices. Where would I get into this trade, assuming that an edge is present? Where am I going to get out of the trade? And where am I going to stop out the trade? We've also talked about the stop out on here before. Where am I going to do those 3 things? I'm going to decide that while I'm in the trade or before I ever even get into the trade. Definitely before I'm ever even looking to get in the trade. I want to know those 3 prices. Bare minimum, every single trade. I got to know that. I got to know that. How can I know what my risk is if I don't even know where I'm going to get in, where I'm going to get out, and what I'm going to lose if I stop out the trade correctly? I won't know my risk, so I need to do that first. That is the next part. Then I'm going to go and I'm going to use a nifty little tool either in my brokerage platform or I'm going to do it on my phone, okay? I'm going to set an alarm that lets me know when a stock price has hit a certain point, a certain price. I can just go, narrow down my watch lists. Let's say the stock I land on is Apple. I go ahead, I draw my lines on Apple. I know that what I want to see is there. And I write down my 3 prices, go into my phone, set an alarm. Phone, let me know when Apple hits, I'm making these numbers up, $100. When it hits $100, I get an alarm I jump into my computer and I go, okay, computer, I'm ready to buy Apple. I've already made my plan. And I know when I buy it, I know what price I'm going to sell it at. See, I already got that figured out. And I know when I'm going to stop it out. So if it goes my direction, I know what to do. If it doesn't go my direction, I know what to do. So that is part of the process. It is a crucial part of the process. Crucial part of the process. So that would be the next thing. We already know, okay, I'm moving on. I'm going a little bit quicker here. We already know the amount of money we want to risk. What's the risk I have in a trade? Well, ultimately, the risk you have in a trade is all the money you put into that trade. Keep it easy math, right? If Apple truly did cost $100, right? Just making it up, as I said, easy numbers. And I bought one share at $100. My risk in the trade ultimately would be 100. If I took an absolute catastrophic max loss, I'd lose $100. I put in 100. I can't lose buying shares. I can't lose more than I put in. Now, are we going to teach you to, as I might say, do or die, meaning you get in and it either makes you money or you're going to lose all 100? No. We'll never get ahead doing that. And that goes back to what I mentioned earlier, our session we did on the stop loss. What does a stop loss do? Stops the loss. So technically, when it comes to risk, you risk everything you put in the trade, but that's not how I trade. That's not how I trade. If you're a TRADEway student, you know that's not how you trade. If I buy one share of Apple at $100, if it does not go my direction, I'm going to be out of that stock at, say, and I'm making this up because we would actually do this on a chart. You bought at 100, I'm getting out when it goes to 92. If it goes down to 92, I'm out of the trade. Stop loss will stop the loss. Where? Wherever I tell it to. That's what we teach you how to do. Stop the loss. You say, Blair, where do I put the stop loss? Well, remember, this is just an academic example, right? We're just talking about it. But we would actually teach you technically, where would you put a stop loss? There's a correct and an incorrect, or at least less helpful place for us to be using and putting stop losses in. What's my point? You put in $100, but I'm not looking to lose 100% of my $100. I'll maybe give up 8%. Maybe. And then I'm out. So my risk before I got in the trade for me, Blair Nightingale, $8. I'm looking to risk $8. And I also know my sell point. So I'm looking to make how much? X dollars, right? What we learn to do, drawing lines on the chart, using the patterns I mentioned, we get to see where is a good place to sell, not just to buy. Anybody can get in at the right time, or at least get in at a good time. But we also need to know how to get out and when to get out. So if I'm at $100, bought one share, I'm looking for it to go to 110. That's a $10 move. And if it's an $8 stop loss, I'm risking 8 to make 10. What's the point? Before I even get in, I know this is what I'm looking to make. This is what I'm looking to risk. And then we can go more advanced from there, because I would just say this quick. For me, I'm not going to risk 8 to make 10. I'll risk 8 to make 16. But I want at least 2 to 1, okay? We got a question here from Carlos. Hello, I have a 401 account and a company stock account. Are any of these tradable accounts that I can use to trade? I get asked this question a lot by students, and I'll say 2 things. Number 1, trading, we have always said we don't have a hard and fast rule. And I am not the one who has custody, control of, or even my eyes on what this gentleman, Carlos, your 401k account, how the company stock, all of the agreements and rules around what that agreement is between you and the company. So I don't have that information. I will say this. we never, ever suggest that anybody would take an entire retirement account and trade stocks with it. TRADEway teaches trading versus investing, okay? But we believe in both. In fact, TRADEway has an entire division which is meant for long-term retirement investing. Trading, generally speaking, being shorter term, and then, of course, the long-term investing. So a small percentage of your long-term money could be taken, put into an account, aside, and traded with. So that comes to Carlos's question. He's asking, well, could I, even if I was going to take a small amount and trade with that, could I do that? And that is something you have to look at the details, the restrictions of that specific account to know, because I've seen over the years, everybody's is different. What can I do? What am I allowed? What kind of freedom do I have of choices to be able to buy and sell, maybe even potentially have some more freedom with that? So that's something, Carlos, I would, and anybody out there who has the same question, it's a great question. It applies to a lot of people. You would have to speak to the person or the firm, if you will, that is managing that money and ask them, what kind of freedom do I have in this account? Which I think, whether you plan to trade or not, is good to know. I showed you just a minute ago the S&P, the market, at the beginning of this year, and you saw that big old crash. So my question to you, as I've posed in earlier broadcasts, and I'm not out to get anybody, I'm not out to demonize anybody, but this is an important question for all of us to ask. Who's managing my money, and what is their plan if we have another crash? And if we do have another crash, and I don't feel like they have much of a plan, what kind of control do I have over my money? I'll finish this question with this because this is beyond the scope of today. I'm very thankful for the question. I told you guys I like the questions, but we did do this in a previous broadcast as well, very early on in the series. So you'd have to go a little further back. We need to know what can we do? We don't want to be in the position where we just sit back and believe the rhetoric in the financial industry that just says, well, Blair, you're just going to have to sit and wait. You're just going to have to just ride it out. Market dropped 40%. Sorry, you just took a massive hit in your account. No call from the advisor. No real plan from the person who's managing this other than, Blair, you just got to ride it out. It's coming back. Well, if you go back and watch my earlier broadcast, I would say 100% that is not good enough. Not good enough. Absolutely not good enough. But for many of us, it sort of has to be good enough because we're like, well, I don't know what else to do. Well, that's not me anymore. And that's not tens of thousands of TRADEway students anymore. Are we perfect? Right? Do we get it right every time? No. No, we don't. But when it comes to long-term money, there's a different approach, much safer, and I'm not going to let somebody tell me that I have to take a 40% bath in money that I may have worked 20, 30, even 10, 40 years to build. Ride it out. For those of us out there today, you're almost 59 and a half. We've had the strongest V-shaped recovery ever. Well, we didn't know that was going to happen. So if the plan is just wait for it to come back and you're 58 years old out there today, I might have been sweating if I was you, hearing my financial advisor tell me, well, we just got to wait for it to come back. I mean, hopefully he didn't have you, or she for that matter, didn't have you heavily exposed to stocks in that case anyway, but that is another topic for another time. Carlos, thank you for the question. You're just going to have to check who's managing that account. What kind of freedom are they giving you? You'll want to know that anyway. Okay? Moving along, I've kind of mentioned some of this stuff already. It's all bunches together. The next one is that we need to be patient, right? We need to be patient. That is something we do when we're looking for trades. I've already talked about the process of how I'll set up the alarms and know what am I going to do? When am I going to do it? What's my risk? What's my potential profit? And then we just need to be patient. Now, I can tell you vulnerably, this has been the biggest thing for me in my entire trading career. It's simply patience. I'm not typically a patient person. It's a strength of mine. I can be a very intense go-getter, right? At TRADEway, we call our students goal getters. And there's an intensity that we have to pursuing the very best that we can do for you and inspiring you to do the very best you can for you and yours. That said, trading requires a lot of patience. It requires a lot of patience. You can't force it. You can't be more driven and make the trade happen. It does nothing. And I've learned this. So we are patient. We are patient. And I really described that process already. So I'm just going to jump in here quick as we close out and just show you something. Okay, we're going back to the chart. Oh, they may not. They're going to try to make me sign up. By the way, this is tradingview.com that I'm using here. This is just a free charting software. And I am broadcasting live today from a specific browser that doesn't allow me to log into my normal account. So that is why you guys are watching me have to do what I'm doing on the page. Now, this watch list, this is a watch list that they have put together. Okay, this isn't a watch list that I put together. You'll notice that it has, it has crypto coins on here. That would never be in a normal watch list for me. That would not. I would only have stocks. And at that, I mentioned that there would only be a list of stocks that I actually want to trade. Now, in the TRADEway programs, we actually provide lists for you. But of course, we're also teaching you how to find good stocks as well. So really both, but we do provide you with some lists right off the bat. So if we just pretend, if you will, or just ignore rather, the ones in this list on the right side of the screen that are not actually stocks. Like I said, this here would be, that's currency. So we're just ignoring that. I'm just going to go through and I'm going to look for patterns. Just like this. Okay. And as I find patterns, yeah, it's got all kinds of other stuff in here. I wish I could have shown you guys my actual chart, but this is always a good go-to. Some of you guys have seen me look at this on here before. Now, up here right now, this chart's a mess. This is Salesforce. Okay, this is a company, Salesforce. It's trading at $267 a share. Well, look at this right here. Generally speaking, what do I notice? From left to right, it's moving up. It's not moving directly up. It's not going straight up in the air. It's doing those peaks and valleys, isn't it? Well, what if I did something like this? What if I just came in here and did something like that? And then I can use my software. It's real nifty. I can clone that guy, drop that in right about there, generally speaking. And of course, can do this like so. And then that actually extends the lines, etc. It moves up and down, up and down, up and down, up between those lines. We would never be in the stock on this day. FYI. So we would know to be out of that stock already. You say, well, Blair, you shouldn't have been out of that stock. Look what it did. We didn't know that was going to happen. It could easily be down here, and it happens all the time. That said, that is a pattern. 2 lines on the chart. Boom. Now, David will actually teach us to do this as well. We can put in this second guy here, which we call an ooch line, which is very helpful. So now we're starting to make sense. There's method to the madness. So I can start to look at prices. This is where I would get in. This is where I'd get out. If I liked this pattern, what am I going to do? I'm going to go ahead and put this in a smaller watch list like I just described to you. If it was, say, this day right here, that is not ready to be bought yet. So I can go ahead, move to the step where I put in an alarm. I know what I'm looking for, and I know what to do once I find what I'm looking for. That's the process. And that is something that every TRADEway coach is going to do. Okay? That is a process. We have got to be people who understand that it is a process, well executed, that gets us to the product. Right? Everybody jokes with me. For some reason, I end up using all these P words as I'm teaching. I'm not sure how or why that happens. Maybe it's part of this. I don't know. I don't know why that is, but we have got to be people who focus on a process, not just the profit, but the process in place, executed properly, gets us to the product. And what I've described for you today is a big part of that process. Hopefully, if you've never heard this before, it took some things and flipped it on its head, where you started to think the other way of, oh, I'm not just going to chase what's happening in the market. I'm going to learn what to look for and let it come to me. I tell you what, guys, I mean this. I can't give any guarantees. Number one, because it's impossible. I literally can't make a guarantee because I can't read the future. Number two, it's illegal for me to make any sort of financial guarantees. I wouldn't do it anyway, but I can't do it. That said, if you learn to correctly identify an edge, a probability higher in this price environment than in this one, focus on this and only trade this with a good process in place, hey, now we're trading. Now we're trading, okay? That is what we do. We're going to take losses. All right, I'll finish with this today. This is outside the scope, but I think it's relevant to what you're hearing me say right now. We will take losses in trading, guaranteed. Here's what's not guaranteed, though. This is up to you and me. Do we manage those losses well so that we can live to trade another day? Losses in trading are like expenses in business. It's the price of doing business. But any company that's just bleeding money and letting it go out the door, wasting inventory, overspending, extra overhead, et cetera, what's going to happen to that business? It's not going to last very long. Even if money is coming in, too much money is going out. And that is true in trading. So I'm telling you, there are losses. We don't train traders to never take losses. We train traders to manage losses well so that they can get ahead over time. Amateurs don't manage losses well. They take massive losses, small wins, and they can't get ahead over time. They can't repeat what they're doing because they don't know why it worked in the first place. TRADEway, step one, that's the foundation of our system. If you've never done anything with TRADEway, I want to see you learn the foundation to this entire system that I'm talking about. It's a 2-day course. I told you already. It's less than $100. You get a 2-day course. You'll get online access to this course so you can review it. Head on over to TRADEway.com. Step one, start your journey. It's right there on the main front page. Join up if you've already been. Hey, let us help you continue your education. Come on over. Join Insiders Plus. Join Insiders Plus and get some of those watch lists. Get some of those tutorials. Get access to a coach like me to help you get set up, get started, get moving. We want you to have this knowledge, but we want to help you implement it and inspire you to actually reach the goals that you had when you came to the Step 1 course. That said, thank you, everybody, for being on a great session today. I feel like today I mentioned a lot. Hey, if there's some things in the past that we've looked over that you have not seen yet, head on over and check those out. If you come across anything here that you feel like, hey, I have a friend, I have a family member, I know somebody, they need to hear this, man. They need to hear the skill set. They need to be inspired. They need some hope. Go ahead, send this over to them. I'm also on here every Wednesday where we're looking more at helping you win at life, developing you, giving you skills, developing you as a person, inspiring you, edifying your spirit. That is what we do Wednesdays at the same time. You can jump on over to that if you haven't. If you have, thank you for being there. Keep sharing, sending, liking, posting. and asking me questions because I love to have you guys on there. That said, we will see you on Wednesday. That wraps us up for another Market Monday. Thanks, everybody. Thank you.